Uninformed immigrants are at a huge disadvantage in court, in financial and legal matters, and also sometimes in life. Well, what can we do about it? I'll tell you what. We can train, teach, inspire, and empower immigrants to maximize their lives regardless of their immigration status. And that's exactly what we're going to do here. I am your immigration lawyer and host, Otis Landerholm, and this is the Empowered Immigrant Podcast. Let's get into the topic, shall we? Interview mistakes, common interview mistakes, all right? Basically, I've got four, all right? I've got four interview mistakes that I see that I want to just share today, and then we'll get into your questions. Interview mistake number one. Ready for it? Interview mistake number one that I see, and we get cases that come in where there was a problem at their interview, and now they're coming in, to have us help them fix it. Interview mistake number one is not going over every page of your immigration forms to be very familiar with the questions that immigration will be asking and the answers that you originally put in those forms. Okay? These cases are taking years, often 2 years right now, like 18 to 24-ish months is what a marriage-based green card application is taking right now. And so it's common that you might have forgotten what you and your lawyer put in the application forms 2 years ago by the time that you're going into your interview. So you want to be ready, right? And when you go into your interview, review that stuff. Be ready to update your information. If information has changed, maybe you've changed addresses, maybe you've changed jobs, maybe you've had a child, maybe there's, things may have changed in your life, right? You might need to update the forms. You also, going through the forms, you might need to correct any error that was made when you originally submitted those forms, all right? Especially, if your date of birth had like the month and year reversed or something. There are common errors that you want to go through and correct so that it doesn't show up on your green card with an error, right? Does that make sense? So hopefully that didn't happen, but if it did happen, correct it by the interview, all right? And you want to be able to answer things in a consistent way with the way they were put in the forms, right? Where possible. You don't want to be saying one thing and then have it be contradicting something that was in the application. You want to make sure that the forms are accurate and that what you're saying is accurate and that the accuracy matches. Okay? So common mistake number one, not going over every page of all of the immigration forms just to be sure that the information there is accurate and to make sure that you are prepared for how to answer them. Okay? Common interview mistake number two. All right? Common interview mistake number two is really not being on the same page with your spouse about the details of your marriage. Okay? Like there are questions that the immigration officer is going to want to ask. You might call them simple questions. Hey, where did you two meet? When was your first date? Who proposed to who? Who was at your wedding? All right, tell me about it. Imagine, the husband says, oh, we met at a party. And then imagine the wife says that my cousin introduced us and we first met through a FaceTime call. All right? Those two statements, you might say, hey, the immigration officer might think, wow, they're not on the same page. One of them's lying or they're clearly not in the same relationship. And yet, isn't it true that maybe both of those are correct? Right? Maybe the first time they spoke was on a FaceTime call, but the first time they met in person was at that party that the husband was talking about. Right? But it's like, it's okay if the details don't match up 100%, Any couple are going to have different ways of remembering different events that happen, but it is wise, let me just say it like this, it is wise to review the details together before the interview so that where there's confusion, where there's misremembering of details, you know, maybe the husband or the spouse completely forgot about that FaceTime call and they completely are remembering meeting at the party. You know, you want to talk through that stuff and get on the same page. Oh yeah, let's check the record. What date was that? Oh, was that the first time we met? Okay, great. So that we're on the same page and not like making stuff up or trying to remember details during the USCIS interview. It's better to have thought that stuff through ahead of time. Got it? All right, it's just common error that we see. Mistake number 3 is right in line with the other two, right? It's like people don't practice enough. Practice with your lawyer and practice with each other. Practice. All right? And that's, you know, hopefully that's self-explanatory. I want you, if you've got a marriage-based green card interview coming up, do some practice runs. Okay? You know, if you're our client, we can give you questions that are like common green card interview questions. You can go through your application. We'll give you a copy. You know, if you don't, you should have one already, but we can resend you a complete copy of your application so that you can go through it line by line. You know what to expect. All right? And we can go through it actually with you. And we do that. Okay? And you want to do that with your lawyer. If your lawyer's not doing that, hey, demand that they do it. Right? This is your case. You want to make sure that you're fully prepared. All right, that brings me to my 4th mistake. And the 4th mistake, I want to say it should be obvious, right? But we see it so often. The 4th mistake is do not go to an interview by yourself. Don't go by yourself. Go with a lawyer, all right? And if you don't speak fluent English, if you're not 100% comfortable speaking in English, also go with an interpreter. Do not go by yourself ever. Okay? Like, you know, I mean, I am a lawyer, and if I were going through this process with my wife, I would pay money for another lawyer to go with us. It's like that important that a client, right, who's going through a process, have someone else with them in the interview who can make a record, who can object if USCIS officers want to be jerks to you, all right? Who can like help you fight your case. Ask for a supervisor to come in if the officer is doing things that are inappropriate on your case. You want somebody with you who's done thousands of these cases to help fight for you. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. I really hope it was helpful. Give us a call. We are here to help, and we are very good at what we do. We'd love to help you navigate your immigration situation. That's what we're here to do. Okay? So thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm Otis Landerholm, Landerholm Immigration A.P.C, where we fight for your American dream. We'll see you next week on our next episode of the Empowered Immigrant Live. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.